I'm Joe Bev, and this is the Joe Bev Show. This time on the Joe Bev Show, Little Worm Lost, Uncle Dunkle, The Wolf and the Goat, and Sherlock Holmes and the Adventure of the 6 Napoleons. That's coming up on the Joe Bev Show. Little Worm is lost. There once was a little worm who lived in an apple in a tree next to a house where some children lived. Every morning when the children had left the school, their toys would appear at the bedroom window and wave to the little worm. Hey! Hello! 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 One day, though, the worm didn't wave back, and the toys, worried and distraught, even started shouting for him. Hey, worm! What's going on? Worm! Where are you, worm? Worm! There was no answer, so the toys left the house and went into the garden.
Okay, what's over here? Hey, worm, you over here? I don't see him.
Dig a hole, maybe he's down in the ground.
They looked for him everywhere, but found nothing. The toys kept looking until they heard a strange noise coming from the garage. They ran over and found... When they were all quiet, they could still hear the noise, and it led them to a football.
Listen.
I hear something. I think it's pigskin.
Everybody started shouting for the worm again, and from inside the ball appeared a little head.
Guffaw, guffaw, guffaw.
Wake up.
They all laughed. Just then, in walked a stray cat, and so the cat told them,
Last night, the little worm had been out on the town enjoying himself. When he returned to the tree, it was already dark, and he couldn't see his apple. He ended up sleeping inside the football instead.
That's a good one.
That's a joke's on you, worm.
It wasn't an apple, it was a football. Wake up.
However, while the worm was returning to his tree, a bit annoyed at the toys' laughter, he thought to himself,
I will have to be a bit more careful and get home early tonight.
I sure am glad nothing happened to the worm.
I love worm.
Wake up.
The tortoise, you know, carries his house on his back.
Uh-huh.
No matter how hard he tries, he cannot leave home.
Uh-huh.
Well, they say that 'cause he was such a lazy stay-at-home that he would not go to Jupiter's wedding, even when especially invited. Many years passed, and the tortoise began to wish...
You want to know something? I wish I had gone to that wedding all those years ago. Might have been fun.
Just then, he saw how gaily the birds flew about, and how the hare and the chipmunk and all the other animals ran nimbly by. Always eager to see everything there was to be seen. The tortoise felt
Very sad and discontented. Well, I want to see the world too. But here I am with a house on my back and these little short legs, and I could hardly drag them along.
One day he met a pair of ducks.
Quack, 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 quack.
And he told them all of his troubles.
Quack, quack. We can help you see the world. Quack.
Quack, quack. Take hold of this stick with your teeth.
And we'll carry you far up in the air. Quack, quack.
Well, you can see, quack, quack, the whole countryside.
Quack, quack.
Quack, quack. But keep quiet.
Or you'll be sorry. Quack, quack.
Quack, quack. The tortoise was very glad indeed. He seized the stick firmly with his teeth, and the two ducks took hold of it, one at each end. And away they sailed up toward the clouds. He got his wish. He was a flying tortoise, and he didn't even have to flap his arms.
Oh, look at that over there. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. No, look. Oh, my goodness. Look at that over there. I never saw that before. I wonder what that is. Oh, look at that.
Just then, a crow flew by.
What is this? I am very much astonished at the strange sight I am seeing. This is a flying tortoise. He must surely be the king of all tortoises. I should think. Why, I certainly am.
But as he opened his mouth to say these foolish words, well, you know what happened, Donnie?
Sure, he lost his hold on the stick.
That's right, and down he fell, down, 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 to the ground.
Was he dashed to pieces?
No, he just, he was all bruised up a bit, but as he limped home, using a twig as a cane, he thought to himself,
Boy, was I filled with foolish curiosity and vanity. That's what led to my misfortune. I like being out, but next time I'll stick to the ground. It's much safer.
Hey, Uncle Dunkle, what's Aunt Rapunzel doing out back?
Hi, Donnie. Well, I think she's milking her camel.
Aunt Rapunzel's got a camel?
I think it's a camel. Yeah, she's on a camel milk diet.
A camel milk diet?
On second thought, maybe it's a goat.
Well, that would make more sense.
Say, did I ever tell you the story of the wolf and the goat?
Not that one, Uncle Dunkle. Tell me about the wolf and the goat.
Once a little Billy goat, who was just a kid, in fact his name was Billy the Kid, well, he started growing his horns, and that made him think that he was a real, for sure, grown-up Billy goat, and able to take care of himself. Well, one evening, when the flock started home from the pasture, and his mother called,
Billy! Billy the Kid! Come on home! Join the flock! Billy!
But Billy paid no heed to his mother's call, and kept right on to nibbling the tender grass.
I can eat this whole field before sundown because I'm a big belly goat.
A little while later, well, he was full, and he lifted his head. He saw that the flock was gone.
I'm all alone, and the sun is sinking.
Billy the Kid surely was alone, and the sun surely was a-sinking. Long shadows came creeping over the ground. A chilly little wind came a-creeping and making those scary noises in the grass. Billy the Kid shivered.
Brrr!
And then he thought of the terrible wolf, and he shivered even more.
Oh!
Then he started running wildly over the field, bleating for his mother.
Mama! Mama!
But not halfway near a clump of trees, there was Wily Wolf.
How are you, kid? Glad to see you. Ooh, let me pinch that little cute cheek.
Billy the Kid knew there was little hope for him now.
Please, Mr. Wolf. I know that you're going to eat me. But first, please pipe me a tune. For I want to dance and be merry till the very end.
How did you know? How did you know I brought my flute with me? I always wanted an audience. I hope you'll applaud at the end.
The wolf liked the idea of a little music before eating, so he struck up a merry tune, and Billy the Kid leaped and frisked gaily.
That's a pretty tune. Look, I'm dancing. I'm dancing.
Meanwhile, the flock moved slowly homeward. In the still evening air, Wily Wolf's piping carried far. Sam and all the shepherd dogs pricked up their ears.
Aw, gee. Oh, golly jeepers, I can hear that wolf a-piping. We've got to get there, fellers, before he eats Billy the Kid.
They recognized the song the wolf sings before a feast, and in a moment they were racing back to the pasture.
Did they get there in time, Uncle Dunkle? Did they get there before Wily Wolf ate Billy the Kid?
The wolf's song ended suddenly, and as he ran, with the dogs at his heels, he said to himself,
I am such a fool for turning piper to please a kid, when I should have stuck to what I do best.
And did Billy get home to his flock?
He sure rightly did, and just as the sun finished a-setting.
Phew, I'm sure I'm glad about that.
Now let's go on out back, and maybe Aunt Rapunzel's got some camel milk for us.
Oh, Uncle Dunkle. listening to The Joe Bev Show. I'm Joe Bev. And now on the Joe Bev Show, Sherlock Holmes and the Adventure of the Six Napoleons.
As I climbed the familiar stairs of 221B Baker Street that evening, to the rooms I shared with the astute and never boring Sherlock Holmes, anticipating an hour or two of stimulating discussion, I dismissed this possibility upon hearing the voice of his visitor, the hard-working but unimaginative Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard. As I entered the room, Lestrade was staring moodily at his teacup. I was in a jovial mood, facetious even. I did my feeble impersonation of the master. I say, Lestrade, is your teacup guilty of some crime? Your contemplation of it suggests a certain suspicion. Is the message in the leaves ominous? What? Tea leaves? What? My blushes, Watson. They say impression is the sincerest form of flattery. And what an opportune arrival. The inspector just mentioned your name. Should I be flattered? You're not accusing me of anything, are you, Lestrade? You haven't found me out. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Watson. I realize the conversation has lightened since you came in. Perhaps it needed a bit of that. It's just that, me mind was heavy on the problem at hand. I mentioned your name because, the case I've come to see Mr. Holmes about is more in your field of practice than in ours. A disease? A plague? The pip? Oh, you are in a good mood tonight, Doctor. Indeed you are. But now to the serious side of me visit. I'm speaking of madness. A queer sort of madness. Napoleon Bonaparte. I suppose he was in a way. No, I mean... Enough, Watson. Lestrade is here on serious business. Sorry, Holmes. Dr. Watson, could you even imagine anyone living today who had such a hatred of Napoleon Bonaparte that he'd break any bust of him that he could lay his hands on? No, I couldn't. What do you say to this, Holmes? I told Lestrade that bust-breaking and the apprehension of the scandals who do this deserve punishment, but they're not in my line. Not even if this particular vandal commits burglary?
to do his smashing up.
Burglary? Did you say burglary?
I did.
That's better. Continue.
The first smash-up was 4 days ago.
Where?
It was at the shop of a certain Morris Hudson in Kennington Road.
And this Morris Hudson, he sells?
Pictures and statues. He and his assistant run the store. Hudson was out on an errand. The assistant steps out for a moment and crash! He comes back to see what it was all about. And there at his feet is this plaster bust of Napoleon in fragments.
Did anyone witness this?
No.
The bust, was it valuable?
Oh, not hardly. A few shillings, that's all it was worth. Hardly worth reporting it to us, as a matter of fact. But the second case...
Another bust was shattered?
It was Dr. Bonnicott's house. This was also in Kennington Road.
The proximity?
It was only a few hundred yards from Morris Hudson's shop. This Dr. Bonnicott maintains his residence and his principal consulting rooms in Kennington Road.
That's his entire establishment?
No, Mr. Holmes. He was a branch surgeon and a dispensary at Lower Brixton Road.
How far away?
2 miles. Bonnicott has this obsession about Napoleon. His house is full of books and pictures and statues of the little corporal.
He had business with Morris Hudson?
He did. He put down his money and got 2 of those busts. Plaster duplicates they were, of the original by French sculptor Devine.
And he placed them where?
One of them he put in the hall of his Kennington Road place, and the other Napoleon...
In exile.
No, Doctor, on the mantelpiece of his clinic in Brixton.
Tell us about the burglary.
In Bonnicott's house, nothing was touched, except for the plaster bust of Napoleon, smashed to bits on his garden wall.
Deep, Lestrade, very deep.
It gets deeper, Mr. Holmes. Next, the vandal went to Bonnicott's dispensary on Brixton Road.
Where he smashed the other statue.
Right. The only difference in this instance...
Yes?
Was that this one was broken inside the clinic.
Lestrade, this is important. Were these busts exact copies? Identical?
They were. They were all made from the same mold.
Then that would work against the theory of someone with a hatred of Napoleon as his sole motive. When we consider how many statues of Napoleon exist in the London shops, it can't be a coincidence that he sought out these 3 accidentally.
You read my mind, Mr. Holmes. This Morris Hudson sells statues in the neighborhood, statues of Napoleon, and 3 of them had been in his shop for quite a period before they were sold.
Go on, Lestrade.
So, a local fanatic might begin with them.
Monomania. It's a case of monomania. What the French call idée fixe. Someone who is completely sane in every respect, except that he must destroy those busts to demonstrate his hatred of Napoleon.
Wrong. No amount of your idée fixe would enable your monomaniac to discover exactly where those busts are located.
Will you explain it, Holmes?
I can't explain it. I can only suggest a certain method in the proceedings.
For example?
In Dr. Bonnicott's house, where there might have been people present, the statue was taken outside and broken.
Whereas at the clinic...
At the clinic, with no possible danger of interruption, the deed was done inside.
Yes.
Trivial, I admit. But, gentlemen, on such trivialities hang some classic examples of crime. Do you recall, Watson, the dreadful business of the Abernethy family?
The Abernethy family? Why, yes, of course. Forgive me, Lestrade. This does sound facetious, but Holmes broke the murderer's alibi by determining the depth that the parsley had sunk into the butter that night.
Parsley sinking into butter? I'm sorry I brought it up. And that, Watson, clarified it. Lestrade, I would be gratified if you'd inform me of any subsequent developments in this matter. Any subsequent developments? Yes, sir.
One approached Lestrade.
Is this serious?
Deadly.
Go on.
Try checking out the descendants of the Duke of Wellington. Holmes, at this ungodly hour, who was at the door?
A message from Inspector Lestrade. He says, come instantly. Murder.
Murder?
He gives an address, number 131 Pitt Street, Kensington. Come, old fellow, get your coat.
Mrs. Hudson took it downstairs for a brush-up.
Well, she's asleep. We'll take it on the way out, and we'll leave it when we come back.
Oh, a brilliant solution to what might have been a perplexing problem.
Oh, yes.
I can't fight your logic, Holmes. Let's be off.
Here we are, Lestrade. Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson. This here is Horace Harker. He's with the Central Press Syndicate.
Hello, Dr. Watson.
How do you do?
And you're Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
I am.
In the past, I've written of your exploits, but I never expected to be directly involved in them myself.
England is a small country.
I've also written reams of news about others, and, well, now I'm the center of a news story. I'm so shaken, I can't put two words together.
Mr. Harker's got a story to tell, Mr. Holmes. He'd best begin.
Well, I was working late last night until it must have been about 3 o'clock or so.
You were?
Upstairs in my study, finishing up an article for Manchester. Sorry stuff, but necessary for my subsistence. I'd just about completed it when I heard a strange sound. I listened, wondering if I'd hear it again, but I didn't. I was putting the finishing touches on my article when there was a horrible scream. Oh, it went right through me. Oh, I was shaken. Oh, I'm not a brave man, but I picked up a poker. Oh, I was all at sixes and sevens. And I came downstairs. As I entered the room, I noticed that the window was open, wide open, and the bust was missing.
That's right, Mr. Holmes. A bust of Napoleon Bonaparte.
It was a cheap one, actually. Plaster. I picked it up at Harding Brothers a couple of months ago. I can't think of why anyone would steal it. I'm not certain of why I bought it. It had no value at all.
A plaster.
Exactly.
Go on, please.
I opened the front door and
And?
And I nearly fell over a dead body, lying
on the doorstep. Oh, I was shaken. His throat was slashed.
My word!
It gave me a terrible fright. I was shaken. When I recovered, I summoned a constable and...
Lestrade, who was the murdered man? We don't know, Mr. Holmes. There was nothing in his pockets except a shilling map of London and a photograph. This one.
Ugly. Rather simian looking, I'd say. Oh, that heavy lower jaw. Ugly devil.
This deserves further study. May I keep it a while, Lestrade? As long as you like. What about the bust? It was found. My men found it in the front garden of the house in Camden Road. How far? About 300 yards from here. Smashed? Smashed. I'm going to see it. Will you come along? I will. I'll be back soon, Mr. Archer.
I'm sure you will. Well, Mr. Holmes, Inspector, Dr. Watson, I appreciate what you're going to. I'm rather shaken, but I must get something written down. The first edition of the evening papers are out already, with full details, and now I'll be late with a murder done on my very doorstep. Oh, I was just so terribly shaken. Well, I must put something down.
Good day, sir.
My very own murder. I must put something down. Anything.
What do you think, Mr. Holmes? We've a long way to go. However, there are some facts worth considering. Suggestive. Our man won't stop at murder to gain possession of the busts. Then consider this singular fact. He didn't break the bust in the house or even immediately outside.
He took it some distance away. It's a puzzler, is what it is, Holmes.
There it is, by that lamppost, which sheds some light on why he took it from the house.
Simplicity itself. He needed the illumination.
Yes. Well, what do you propose we do next, Lestrade? I propose to identify the dead man, Mr. Holmes. Won't be too difficult, and when we know who he was and who his associates are, why then we can determine what it is he was doing in Pitt Street last night. And we can learn who it was that met him on Mr. Harker's doorstep and cut his throat. That's what I'd say. What do you say? I say it's not quite the way I would approach the case. It's not? No. What would you do then? It's your investigation, Lestrade. You mustn't let me influence you. Here's my suggestion. We could follow our own instincts in the case. Meet later, perhaps, to exchange pertinent information. Would that suit you? Meet where? Baker Street. 6 this evening. All right. My suspicions, if correct, may demand your company and assistance later tonight on a small expedition. I can count on your help? Of course. That is, as long as it doesn't interfere with my own investigation. Of course. 6 then? 6. Good day, gentlemen.
Where to now, Holmes?
Kensington Road. It's time we paid a visit to Morris Hudson, the statue seller. He may be of help.